Hey everybody, it's Thursday night, which means it's time for Shop Talk. I'm Josh Olive with Haven Comics, the absolute best comic book store at our address in Madison, Alabama. So stick around and see what we're going to be talking about today because you may or may not like it. I don't know. We'll find out. Once again, as always, a huge shout out to Nick Ellis from Two Brothers Comics for that awesome intro video, which makes me happy every time I see it. Speaking of things that make me happy every time I see them, Alan Breedlove, how you doing, brother?
Say hello to my little friend. Say hello to my little friend.
I can't help it. I should have never found this website.
Oh, good Lord. We are in for it now, aren't we?
If you create websites that puts downloadable MP3s out there free for people to use on shows like this, God love you and keep it coming. I will never get enough of that.
That is not right, dude.
It's really not. I'm going to keep going and see what all I can find.
Well, don't do it right now. We got stuff to talk about.
Oh, we got a ton to talk about.
We've also got my dogs barking for some reason. Really appreciate that. Thanks, guys. You're awesome. Let's see who we got in the house so far. We got Bill Fisher. What's happening, Bill? Hope everything's going well for you, sir. Tots. What's up, Tots? Nick telling people not to be humble. That's very kind of you, Nick.
He's a sweetheart.
I tell you, last night the two brothers had a special YouTube live show, and it was good to see them back on the air live, and good to hear from them, good to talk to them, and they were making it sound like things were not going well, like maybe they were going to shut things down, but they're just re-energized and coming at it from a little bit of a different direction, and I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to seeing how they revamp things. Some of the upcoming stuff that they have going on. I think Nick had some really good ideas. And I think that did you see that one video that Dustin posted the other day on the Comic Chiropractor about what he looks for when he's buying comics?
Yes.
He needs to turn that into a series. That was
absolutely does. I agree.
That was really good and really informational. I think that should be an actual series right there.
Yep, I agree.
What am I doing? Oh, that's what I'm doing. So we probably are going to end up having a lot to talk about here in the next little bit. I'm not going to go full blown on this because I do the pull list video, but I will give y'all some books. Plus, I got a little something that y'all might be interested in here in a minute. I know one person is going to be interested in it for sure.
Oh, I'm excited.
Oh yeah. So I'm actually just going to jump right into these and knock this out right quick.
Let's do it.
And then we can start talking about some of these companies. Right off the bat, Fantastic Four issue 10. I really enjoyed this issue. I mean, it was written from a different perspective. The Bug absolutely loved it.
Oh, she did good.
Yeah, Fantastic Four in space is literally what it come down to. But it was just a really cool story. If anybody's curious about what's going on with Fantastic Four, and you don't want to get wrapped up in like a multi-issue storyline, pick up issue 10. It's self-contained. It'll kind of show you how North is going about Fantastic Four now. It was just a really good issue. And even in space, we got a reference to Aunt Petunia's house. And I just love that for some reason.
Because it's great.
Yep. Next up, we've got Fire and Ice, issue number 1 by Dynamite Comics.
Is that Dynamite or is...
Do what?
That one is Dynamite. I was thinking that was Opus, but Opus is doing all the other Frank Frazetta.
Yeah, this one, It's been years since I saw the actual movie Fire and Ice, which was an animated movie for those of y'all that don't know.
Ralph
I do want
actually,
to track a copy of it down and watch it again, but from what I remember of the movie, this was a really good prequel. It kind of it felt like it should fit with it.
yeah,
Good art. I like the way that it started out. You're getting the amount of information that you need to get in. Dynamite, I think they did a really good job with the first issue. I'm looking forward to seeing where this is going. For those of y'all that might just now be jumping on, yeah, I am going kind of fast. I go a lot more in depth in tomorrow's pull list video. Batman Night Terrors, issue number 2. I'm really liking certain aspects of Night Terrors, and this is one of them. The other books, they're kind of falling short for me. Basically, in this issue, it's a nightmare within a nightmare, and we have
it's an Inception mare. Yeah,
yeah, it really is. I thought, have you read it yet?
yeah.
I thought that whole scene with the door with the chains on it and what was actually behind the door and Batman coming face to face with the younger version, the 10-year-old Bruce. I thought that was a really well written. I enjoyed that part of it a lot.
I'll agree with that. I think it was visually interesting, and I think conceptually it was really interesting too.
Yeah, who wrote this particular issue?
I
Williamson
don't.
wrote this issue. Oh, one thing though, when I picked this book up, I was kind of wondering why is there like a secondary story with Arsenal in this book?
Yeah,
I thought that Arsenal being in this book was kind of weird, but I ended up enjoying the secondary story. I mean, it was only a couple of pages, and I thought it was pretty good. It fit right in, right where it needed to. Plus, it kind of pulled a couple of story aspects that are going on in the Green Arrow miniseries right now.
I think it's interesting that DC has kind of quietly been getting back to old school, multiple stories in a single book on a lot of their titles, because that's how all the comics used to be. Comics used to weren't just one story or a piece of a story in a book, right?
Yeah.
You got 4 or 5 different stories, and they've been slowly going back to 2 stories, sometimes 3, in their books. And I found that to be interesting. Mostly, I don't know that I care for it, but it's interesting. I would like to have an issue with a self-contained story. Would be my favorite thing.
Yeah, I think and I mean, we can talk more about it when we actually start talking about some of the publishers, but I think that with Action Comics, they're putting too many stories into it. Because I think it was at the last issue of Action Comics. I want to say there was 4 stories in it.
Yep, 4.
And I'm not. I mean, if y'all are a fan, so be it. Y'all, I mean, you do you on this one. I mean, don't listen to me if you're a fan of this particular character. I'm not a big fan of Steel. I feel like Steel served his purpose in the Reign of Superman, the Reign of Supermen storyline, and that was it. I kind of
I don't think they ever knew what to do with him after that, and I think that was part of the problem. It's not the character; the character is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
but they have never been successful in turning him into somebody past that you're like, oh, I got to read that.
Yeah,
they just haven't I kind of had the same thought about Jon Stewart in the early days when he kept popping up and Hal Jordan kept going away. And I definitely felt that way about Kyle Rayner. I never liked Kyle Rayner. But Jon Stewart has become an interesting character in his own right. You know, they figured out how to write him and make him his own man instead of just the replacement guy for Green Lantern. And I think Steel, they haven't figured that out yet. Man, we got all kind of folks popping up in here. Man, we haven't seen you in forever. How you doing?
I'm really and truly only got just a couple books left. Actually, 4 books left. Next up is Moon Knight, issue 26.
Oh, it was so good.
So good.
That was so good.
I know it's not going to happen, but I mean, kind of take the glare off of it. For those of y'all that aren't reading Moon Knight, this is Hunter's Moon. He is the other Fist of Khonshu, and Hunter's Moon, this one issue right here proves that he deserves his own standalone book,
Yes.
and McKay should be writing it. Hunter's Moon is a great character, and I hope they do
Especially with
more
what
with
they
him.
did with him in this story. This whole chorus of past Moon Knights.
Yep.
Dude, I want to read this solo story so bad.
Yeah.
Jed McKay, if you are watching, if by some miracle you're watching, for the love of all things holy, give us a Hunter's Moon series.
Or you know what they could do? Remember that? I think it was the Moon Knight annual where Moon Knight fought Kane through
Yes.
history, and
Phenomenal issue.
he encountered the different versions of himself.
Yep.
They could do something like that with Hunter's Moon.
Yep.
Hunter's, and I may end up getting in trouble with some folks, but I'm going to say this anyway because this actually, Hunter's Moon backs up something that I've said for years. A lot of people get upset when these companies change what we feel is canon, and I've said it multiple times in the past. Stop changing a character that's been around for 40 or 50 years to fit a current real world narrative. Give me a new character that fits that narrative and give me a reason to care about that character.
Hey, we're going to have to pause for a quick second. We have got not one, but two people who were recently just nominated for awards here tonight on the show. We got Mr. Tom Price,
and
we got Two Brothers Comics. Look at that. Look at us. Look at the kind of people we're attracting with this show.
Oh, I know.
We're not nominated for squat, but they are.
Hopefully they will make it to the. Hopefully they'll make it into the finalist. But what I was saying with this was they did not change a 40 to 50-year-old character. They gave us a brand new character with a different type of backstory. They gave us an extremely interesting character.
He is so cool.
That's what I want. I don't want you to take this character that's been around, for literally generations at this point, and all of a sudden change them. Give me a new character to care about. And guess what, Marvel? McKay did it. Thank you.
I will say this. He folded it seamlessly into the Moon Knight mythos in the coolest of ways. This whole idea of the Fist of Khonshu, and for Jed McKay to go, well, unless Khonshu ran into a real problem somewhere or put his hand in a wheat thresher, he got two fists.
Yep.
Right? He's got two fists. So who's the other one? So you got Moon Knight, who is all white, and he's the zenith of the moon. He's the waxing of the moon. And then you got Hunter's Moon, who is like the waning of the moon, and the different power sets, the different backgrounds. It is the coolest thing. It's fantastic. And if you're not reading it, you should be. I think Dr. Badir is an incredible character. I really, really, really like him.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. And then and I cannot think of her name right now. The psychiatrist.
I love her.
Dude, she's been great. I mean,
she's a great. McKay has used her really effectively as a foil for the storytelling, right?
Yep.
As a way to tell the story, she's a great mechanical plot device to advance the story, and I think she's awesome.
And I mean, I never thought that anybody would make me care about the character Tigra.
Same.
And then Jed McKay all of a sudden said, hold my beer and watch this. I want them to get back to Tigra and Mark now. And I never thought that I would feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's just doing an outstanding job. And if y'all aren't reading Moon Knight, we're up to issue 26. Pick up the trades. It's been so good. Next up, we have Sins of the Salton Sea, AWA. I love Wyatt. I think Wyatt this is number 3 of 5. By issue 5, Wyatt is going to go full-blown, hard-charging head first into a fight. It's coming, and I cannot wait.
If you could pick an actor to play the character of Wyatt, who would you choose?
What is his name? I can't. He was on, and I never even watched the show. Is it Charlie Hunnam, Sons of Anarchy?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got the look for it.
He does. I'd agree with that.
And we're going to get into more AWA because that is one of the publishers that we'll talk about. I've got a lot of thoughts on them.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get into them here in a second. I got just a couple left. Next up, the Sacrificers.
Because I haven't gotten to read that one yet.
I really, once you read it, tell me what you think, because it, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it at the same time.
Okay.
It was just kind of, I don't know. It missed its mark for me. It was a little weird. There was one scene in it where I'm like, oh my God, will somebody please step in and kill this person? I'm already tired of dealing with them.
That's funny.
And then by the end of the book, I was kind of like, well, you know what? That's what you get. That's you. The way you feel right now, that's exactly what you get. That's called karma. But I'm going to have to read the next issue to try to figure it out. It's once you read it, you'll understand. It's just kind of, I don't want to say anything
I know the premise.
else about it.
Yeah, I know the premise. For folks who don't know the premise, can you share that?
So basically there is, we got somebody special in. Look, we are pulling some celebrities tonight.
Oh, Bianca. Bianca is the best. Bianca
you know what Bianca gets?
Oh, Lord have mercy, Bianca. He's found a sound. What do they call that? A soundboard?
Yep. Basically, on the Sacrificers, there is a once a year sacrifice, and it's basically what it comes down to. I believe it's once a year. To a sun god is the way that it comes across.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's supposed to be the eldest of the family or one that's randomly chosen. I didn't quite pick up on that. But apparently they're going to fight back against this sacrifice at some point. I didn't know a whole lot going into it, because sometimes I do like to go into comic books knowing absolutely nothing except the title. Which this brings us to the next one, and this is one that y'all can still sign up for, because this was the advanced reader copy by Crusader by Mad Cave Studios. This was really, really good. The whole premise is he is a Knight Templar. He's fighting in the Crusades. I'll give you all the quick version of it. He runs into, or he ends up stumbling upon a ritual that's being done by some Templar priests, and they all declare each other heretics, and he goes to kill them. Well, something happens, the ritual backfires, and he wakes up. Well, when he wakes up, he cannot take his armor off, and there's actually, they look like some type of ogres are surrounding him, and they're talking about they're going to eat him. So he kills them, and then saves the person that they're going to eat, to find out that there are other humans there, and this person is going to guide into them. It was a really interesting premise. For some reason, I really enjoyed the fact that whatever caused him to wake up in this strange land with ogres, that he could no longer take his armor off. And I guess the reason why I found that interesting is, Knights Templar were legendary for the way they looked. I mean, their armor, their cloaks, everything. So I thought that was really cool. I do highly recommend picking this up when it does come out. Sign up for it at your LCS. It was just a cool little read by Mad Cave Studios.
I have to say, the basic elements of that plot, the execution of it's totally different, but the basic elements of the plot where person is here in this world, they're doing their thing, they go through, don't know how, don't know why, but they're in a different world, and they just have to survive and try to figure out how to get back if they can, is Turok, Son of Stone.
Yep.
Old school Turok, American Indian from the 1880s, 1860s, 1880s, whatever it is. and then poof, he's back with dinosaurs. No idea how he got there, but man, what a great story! And this has that same vibe to it.
Yeah, it
Completely
really
different
does.
execution, but that same vibe.
I do highly recommend y'all giving that one a shot. I think that's going to be a really fun one. Which that brings us to the
Throwback Thursday.
throwback pick. And if you watch tomorrow's pull list, you will understand why I chose this one. And it's kind of sad, but I was thoroughly unprepared. Throwback pick of the week is Daredevil issue number 110. Why Daredevil issue 110? Because it was within arm's reach when I was filming the pull list.
That is the height of laziness, sir.
Yes, it is. Now, which does kind of lead me to something else, though. Remember the 110. Last week on the pull list, I held up my throwback pick like this, and I was like, hey, I just want to see, leave a comment below. The only way you're going to find out what comic this is if you watched Shop Talk from the night before. Well, you know, when you find out, just leave me a comment. Well, Bill Fisher left me a comment, and all he said was 251, because last week's throwback pick of the week was X-Men 251. Well, Bill Fisher, I really wasn't expecting anybody to do anything, and then after he did it, I had this idea. Since Bill actually did what I asked, Bill, you are about to be the proud owner of the new Teen Titans, issue 31. That's some Marv Wolfman goodness right there for you. I will put that in your box tomorrow. The reason why it's the new Teen Titans is because I know Bill likes the new Teen Titans. So if tomorrow when you watch the pull list, if you will comment issue 110, the first person that comments after the video has premiered, not while it's premiering, but after the video has premiered, you will win a book that I think you'll like. And there's Bill's book. It will be in your box tomorrow, Bill.
Excellent. That is most excellent. That makes me happy.
So that's it.
That's it?
That's it. I go into a lot more detail in tomorrow's video, but that's tomorrow's video. I'm ready to start.
So was that last bit the detail that you said if they stick around, they might see something they like?
Oh, that was it.
That's what I was asking. Was that what you were asking?
Yeah, that was it. If you, I mean, who knows? Next week you may win it.
If not, Bill's just going to win it again, and then how embarrassed will you guys be?
Nick, you're not even following directions.
You know, Nick never met a direction he liked.
So now Nick's got to go back and watch the last 10 minutes to figure out what the directions were.
Oh, he heard you. He knows the directions. He's just willfully choosing to ignore them because that's what Nick do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Good stuff. So what you saw the poll or the sign-up sheet for this month is just hugely long. So if you guys have not been down to the shop yet, or if you went to the shop but you somehow missed the massive sign-up sheet that's taped right there on the front counter next to the cash register, you need to get down there and take a look because there's a lot of good books that are coming out, and there's a lot of stuff that you're going to want to read.
Bless
Nick,
you.
I think I told you, or at least I showed it off on air last time. There's a Tolkien book. It's like a biopic kind of a thing of Tolkien. It's a hardcover book, but I ordered one for myself, and knowing that you're a fan, I ordered one for you. And also, Nick, when you swing by the store, and I know you're going to be a real pill about this, but there's also a birthday present there at the store waiting for you. So
there might be two if we meet up there.
Oh, snap. But yes, come on by the shop. There's a birthday present waiting for you. It's the key to all your happiness. You're going to love it. So, with all that preamble out of the way, what say we get down to business?
Let's do this. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So where do you want to start? Do you want to start indies? Do you want to start with the big two? Where do you want to
Um,
start?
let's hold off on the big two because I got a feeling I already know where both of us are going to go with those two.
You might be right. Now, we discussed no ground rules about this before we came live on the air, so we might have both approached this totally differently. But I gave all the publishers a grade, like they were in school. How did you do
Yeah, not like that.
it?
I was kind of approaching it in the mindset of what our honest thoughts on what those publishers are doing right now.
Yep.
I really didn't think about it as a grade, so to speak. And I mean, tell me what you're thinking on the grade, and then I can kind of go from there because I already know what I think about a lot of these publishers. And if you're tuning in thinking that I'm about to start bad mouthing and trashing some people, nah, we know that's not my style. I'll tell you if I don't like something, but I'm not about to run them into the ground.
Same. Same. I found myself a little bit surprised at the way I graded some of these guys and why I graded them the way that I did. Um, and some of them nobody's going to be surprised by at all, but some of them I was a little bit surprised at the grades I gave them myself. And some of them are ones that we don't necessarily talk about very much, but like Frank Miller Presents, for example. Frank Miller decided, hey, I want to have my own publishing company. And he got Dan Didio, who used to be the publisher at DC, to come over and run it. And that should be a good company putting out good comics. And so far, their pricing is all over the place. They've made mistakes on the back end side of things for retailers and things, making it very difficult to carry their product. And then, for the most part, what they're putting out they don't even seem excited about it, and that does nothing to get me excited about it. So I gave them a great big old F because I haven't liked a single book that they've put out yet, and they don't even seem to really care about it. So I don't feel like I should be excited
But
about it either.
that's what I was about to ask you. You literally just did like a school grading, like A, B, C, D, E, and F, or A,
I
B,
did.
C, D,
I
and
did.
F. Okay, cool.
I did. You want me to give you the list of publishers that I picked?
Yeah.
All right, I'll start at the bottom and go up, and these are not in any particular order other than the order in which I thought of them. I couldn't think of all of them, so I just went with a handful here. So I started with Source Point Press.
So,
Then,
what has Source Point Press put out here lately?
it's a whole bunch of limited series. They kind of have a similar approach to AWA in that regard.
Oh, aren't they the ones that they've got the didn't they do that one shot, was it Nightmare Man?
Yeah, among others, yeah.
Okay, I really liked that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I was thinking more along the lines of like Mad Cave, AWA.
Oh, I've got them on here.
Oh, okay. Oh, please proceed.
So I got Source Point Press. I got Oni Press. I just said Frank Miller Presents. I got Valiant. I have Vault. I have Mad Cave. I have Opus. I got Dynamite, Dark Horse, AWA, Image, DC, and Marvel. That's not anywhere near all of them, but that's enough to talk about for one evening, I think.
So one of the lesser known ones on there. Let's jump on Opus right quick.
Let's do it. For
I
anybody
have
who doesn't know, Opus is they are primarily right now carrying or pushing forward the creations of Frank Frazetta. That's mostly what Opus is doing. So if you look back at all those old Eerie covers and Creepy magazine covers, you look at characters like Death Dealer. Opus is saying all of this stuff exists in a universe created by Frank Frazetta, and so they are pushing that universe and all the things within
it. So I have been, for a company that I had never heard of before, Death Dealer. I have been really impressed with what they've done. Opus is definitely not one of those comics that you recommend for kids.
No.
They are definitely more for the adult crowd, but I do feel like that with Death Dealer alone, they have perfected, let's say, their version of sword and sorcery. I honestly, I think that they're doing Frazetta proud with the way that they're presenting Death Dealer and some of the things that they're bringing into it. Now, didn't they do the Halloween Keepers of the Seven Keys? Was that Opus that did that one also?
Yep.
Now, that one was a lot different. For those of you that, and I only really and truly know one person that might have actually got that whole thing, and that's Ryan Williams. Halloween was a metal band in the 80s, and they did a concept album. They actually did several, and Keeper of the Seven Keys was that album. So that comic book was kind of loosely based on all that and Halloween, which I think they did a really good job. Opus, like I said, one of those companies, I want to give Opus a solid B. Just simply because I had no expectations whatsoever going in, and they pretty much blew me away on what they've done and how they've presented it so far.
Opus got a solid B from me too.
Oh, I can.
Right out of the gate. Now, Bill Fisher brings up one that we had up on the thumbnail, but I forgot to add to my list, which was IDW, and also Boom Studios. I feel very bad about both of those being excluded from my list, so I have since added them. Thank you for the reminder, Bill. We will definitely talk about IDW.
Okay, so another one that you mentioned on your list, and I mean, I'm about to show some stupidity here, I guess. Is Valiant even still around right now?
Boy, did you just make my point.
So I guess
Valiant,
we'll give them a D.
Valiant is still around, and Valiant keeps they keep reissuing Shadow Man, Exo Man of War, and Ninjak over and over and over. I keep relaunching it, hoping that one of these launches is going to get them out of orbit, and it's so far no dice. And I think the ideas are dead. The books look good. They might even read okay, but folks are just tired of and Bloodshot. I forgot Bloodshot. They keep endlessly relaunching the same character over and over and over, and it's not working. They either need to get some new IP, breathe some new life into something, and get moving, or they need to just give up and go home. They've been circling the drain for so long, it's painful. And I hate to say it, I've always liked those characters. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Valiant. I remember when Valiant was the hot thing when they first came out back in the 90s. And they were just incredible. They were doing some different things. But it's very clear that they don't have a Jim Shooter anymore. They don't have that kind of vision, that kind of leadership. And Valiant is just circling around doing the exact same thing over and over and over and over. And I gave them a very solid and heartfelt F with a needs improvement.
All right. I mean, I know so little about Valiant now.
No, you don't. You know exactly everything there is to know about Valiant, because if you knew it 25 years ago, it's the same.
Oh, so there, yeah. I think we'll go with your F on that one. There was another company that you said on there, and this is really bad. I read so many books, and a lot of times I don't pay attention to the publishers, but one of them that I did Scout Comics.
Oh, yep, I left them off here too. That was I told you it was a very incomplete list.
Now, isn't Scout Comics the one that did that? It was something about a creature that lived in a swamp.
Yeah, and it had one of those long names, like it eats what feeds it or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a really long name, and I thought that was really good. But that was all I really knew about Scout Comics. I knew that they had done a couple of other things.
They do like Metal Shark Bro.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who published Brian Silverback's Loggerhead book.
There was. I'm gonna just look them up right quick because I might even be thinking of something different.
They seem to publish mostly toward the spec crowd. I don't know if that's intentional or not, or if the spec crowd has just kind of latched onto them. But the speculator guys very much seem to like, or at least they did for a period, the books
That
from
was
Scout
it.
Comics.
So, Claire and the Dragons. I never read that book, but I did pick it up for Bug because I thought it would be something that she would enjoy.
Was that from Scout or Scoot? Scoot is their all ages imprint.
Yeah. This is from Scout Comics.
Okay.
And apparently she didn't even make it halfway through that book.
That's not good.
Yeah, she did not like that one at all. And very rarely does she stop reading a book.
Yeah. Scout is I file Scout under the not for me. The vast majority of their stuff just isn't up my alley. It might be good, it might be bad. I honestly don't know. It's just not my thing.
Well,
as a publisher, they seem to be consistent in their publishing. They seem to have a fairly consistent following. So they're probably doing okay. It's just they're not in my swim lane, so it's not something that I would go out of my way to seek out and read.
Yeah, I'm really not even seeing anything that makes me go, "Oh, wait a minute! I see that's a cool looking cover. I need to pick that up." So we've had a couple that, and I got a feeling we could throw out several more that we could just say we really don't like. Let's go with one that we both like next. Let's go with AWA.
AWA. For me, they are putting out consistent books. They're putting out books that cover a broad variety of genres, but they all have consistent quality levels. So far, and I have read every book that they have published that I'm aware of. They don't always hit home runs, but they haven't fouled out yet either. Right? They hit a lot of home runs. They hit a lot of singles and a lot of doubles. But I have yet to read a book that I said, well, this is garbage.
I have not read one that I thought was garbage, but there was one title that I was just kind of like, it just missed the mark for me. And that was the first issue and a half I thought was great. And then it just started, for some reason, it just started going downhill and I just lost interest in it. And that was Marjorie Finnegan.
Yep. It started off kind of crazy and hyperkinetic, and then it just kind of became, it's that story.
Yeah, and it just started fizzling. Now, at the same time, this is what I would like to see from IDW. I mean, not from IDW, from AWA. Sorry, I was reading a comment. I would like to see, and now AWA is another one of those that we're not going to recommend for kids. I think Josh will agree with me on that one.
I couldn't agree more.
If you want more grown up, grittier, really cool stories, just a little bit darker, definitely go for AWA. But what I would like to see them do is take Sins of the Salton Sea, Devil's Highway, Black Tape, and put them in their own little section of the universe. And then you could take like Red Zone, American Ronin, the books like that.
Yep.
Put them in their own little. In fact, Red Zone could truly be the cornerstone of that universe.
Oh, it absolutely could.
Just like Black Tape could truly be the cornerstone of that other little universe with Sins and Devil's Highway.
Yep.
Because, I mean, if you look at it, the character Jack could end up being your centerpiece hero / anti-hero villain / anti-hero whenever he wanted to be.
Good.
And
Yeah.
for
absolutely.
those of you that have read Black Tape, that'll make perfect sense for you. He's Jack. I mean, that's really the only way to explain him. I mean, he's not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination, but you agree with kind of what he did and why he did it.
Just Jack.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean, who wouldn't want to see anybody that's reading AWA? Who would not want to see a team up between Wyatt from Sins and Haro from Devil's Highway?
Oh, yeah.
I've thoroughly, I thought that
Grindle, Kentucky could fit in that universe too.
Yeah, that'd be another good one. I thought that Not All Robots was a little quirky, but it was a good quirky. I really enjoyed Not All Robots. I mean, they've hit a lot of home runs as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
I would like
Resistance
to see them,
right out of the gate. Hotel right out of the gate. Hotel
Yep.
was very Twilight Zone feeling. Really, really liked it. Fight Girls was surprisingly good book. Trojan.
Trojan was amazing, absolutely amazing.
So many good books.
One book that they came out with that I was leery when I read what the premise was, but it was one of those that it's AWA, I need to give this a shot because I like what they're doing. And I ended up just thought it was a great all-around book, and that was Hit Me.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that. Yeah.
And Hit Me could actually fall into that American Ronin Red Zone universe.
Yep.
And I think that if they wanted to start compartmentalizing some of their, some of their books, I think they've got such a solid base right now that they could do that very easily. And AWA, if they keep doing, oh God, yes, you're right, Bill. If AWA keeps doing what they're doing now, they're going to be around for a very long time, and I'm here for it.
Oh, I hope to goodness so. I desperately want to talk to them on this show. I want to get Axel Alonso to come on here. I want to get Mike Diodato Jr. to come on here.
Panosian.
Dan Panosian, I want him on here so bad. I want to talk to these guys because it's just so good. And they're so consistent with the product that they're putting out and the quality. It's very clear that it's not just some guys randomly throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks. They've got a plan and they have a standard for what the story and art has to match up to. I tell you, one that flew under the radar was one of their very first books was Archangel, which read very much like, what if you gave the Punisher the powers of a really ticked off, vengeful archangel?
See, that one came out before I started reading AWA.
Yeah, it was one of the very first ones they put out.
Yeah, I missed that one, and I was sitting here trying to think of
which of those little pocket universes would you put Redemption in?
Oof. Redemption could actually fall into the Not All Robots category on some level. Because, once the robots pretty much destroy everything or we destroy them, there's going to be a reset.
That's true. I just desperately want to see Redemption turned into a movie because for me, it was very clear that lead character was based on Linda Hamilton, and I want to see Linda Hamilton play that character.
What was it? I was trying to look. I just jumped on AWA's website. Knighted. Knighted was really
Knighted was great.
Knighted was so good. And if they, that would fall into the, what was it? Keeping Up with the Joneses? Was that,
Yep.
what was that?
Yep.
Yeah. Old
Erratic.
Hearts. Yeah. And Primos. Old Haunts is when I started reading
Old
AWA
Haunts
comics.
would fit straight into that um, Devil's Highway kind of a thing. For
Yep,
sure.
it really would. And
Bianca was on
Out
here
was,
earlier, Mike. You might have missed her.
Out was so good.
Oh, Out was phenomenal. What a great story.
Yeah, oh God, I'm sitting here scanning. Sacrament, Telepaths, Crimson Cage. We got the Madness coming up. The Ribbon Queen that was not what I thought it was going to be. It was really good.
That's the Batman Beyond book. Yeah, that's a really exciting one. Glad you're enjoying that. We'll get to
Yep.
DC here in a bit, and I don't know that we'll be bringing that one up specifically. We might, but yeah, I think what the gist of this is, for me, if I'm doing an old school like third grade kind of grading system for a publisher, uh, AWA is one of the few on my list that gets a solid A.
Yep. I would go as far as to give them an A+.
I was on the fence about that, but I'm a hard grader. Ah, see, look at this. Mike liked the Ribbon Queen.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that I was not expecting that ending. That was pretty wicked. I liked that.
That was a creepy book.
It really was.
She kind of
And see,
reminds
I
me a
think,
little bit of the character. What was the old Ultraverse book from the '90s that was called Freaks, where
yeah.
she could unravel her skin and use it like ropes and stuff.
Was that
Uh,
Ultraverse or was that Image?
it was Ultraverse.
What am I thinking of then?
Freex. That was Ultraverse.
Oh yeah, no, that's not the way. Because didn't Image do a Freaks or something like that?
Maybe. I don't
Hmm.
know, but it was definitely a great Ultraverse book. Man, that ain't no thing. We love talking comics. You guys come on out. We'll hang out and talk comics. Ain't gonna hurt nobody's feelings. See, there you go. That's a great description. That's a great description.
And I would say with just a touch of Lucifer thrown in at the end.
Yeah, you had to have that little flavor added.
Yep.
But yeah, I give them a solid A. I was on the fence about an A plus. Um, I certainly get you giving them an A plus. One thing I will say I really like that they do. They don't always do it, but they do it on a fair number of their number ones. Is for their number ones, they will give retailers a bigger discount than normal.
Yeah.
So at the wholesale level, when we're buying books to incentivize us to try the new number one, they will give a larger discount than normal on the first issue. And I, for one, great as a retailer, I greatly appreciate that because that gives me an opportunity to to get more copies to try to find a ceiling of readers for the book without putting myself at a big financial risk. So AWA, we salute you.
So next up, and I don't know a ton about them because I don't read a ton of their comics, and that's Dynamite.
Well, exactly. I'll tell you why I put Dynamite even on the list, right? Dynamite publishes Vampirella, like 6 or 7 different Vampirella books. They publish Red Sonja, like a couple of those. They publish Deja Thoris stuff, the Warlord of Mars kind of thing. So you see that there's a general lane that they're in, right? And then they have a couple of exceptions to that, where they publish James Bond and they publish Tarzan book. Now the quality of their books is without question. They publish really good stuff. Um, so it's not up my alley. Like we talked about before, what their main focus is just not my jam, right?
Yeah.
But they publish consistently. They've got a platform. They have a target audience. They know what they're doing. Yeah, Betty Page. I forgot about that. in Elvira. But they've got a target audience. They know what they're doing. Just not my jam. But then, out of nowhere, is this announcement that they're going to be publishing Disney books. And I'm thinking, huh? But they've got series now of Maleficent, Scar, Hades comes out this week, I think. Then they've got Gargoyles and Darkwing Duck.
See, Gargoyles kind of missed for me, but I'm loving Darkwing Duck.
Oh, yeah. And then they've got Gargoyles Dark Ages too, which is a new one. So I think it was really interesting for them that they've done what they've done, that they've gone about it the way they've gone about it. And so I've kind of got two things. I've got a grade for them as a publisher who's doing their thing, and I have a grade for them as a reader that they've got my attention, which is a little bit odd, a little bit different. As a publisher, I think they score a pretty solid B+. As a fan, as a reader, I like Tarzan that they're putting out is excellent. If you're not reading Tarzan, it's great. If you like Tarzan at all, this is a really good take on Tarzan. But then Darkwing Duck is phenomenal. Maleficent has been good. Scar has been good. I have no reason to think Hades isn't going to be good. So I think that I've given them a solid C+. For me as a publisher, as a reader, as a publisher, I give them a B+.
See, as the only way that I can really go about that one, because I've only read a couple of their books, and Fire and Ice that literally just came out last week being one of them. Gargoyles kind of fell flat for me. I love Darkwing Duck. I did read some Vampirella there for a while, but it's not what I remembered Vampirella being. Because I read Vampirella in the 90s when we had Vengeance and Vampirella. And we had all that. So I stopped reading Vampirella. My thing about Dynamite is, how in the world are you putting out 11,000 covers for each issue?
That's part of their model, and it apparently works for them because they keep doing it.
That's just it, though. When you put out that many, you as a retailer, you've got to order what you can sell. That's your business.
Yep.
You can't just go through and pick and choose a little bit out of each one to get these different covers just because I want one particular cover as a consumer.
Well, I can, as long as you tell me about it in advance.
Yeah, and a lot of the times I don't know what those covers look like, those other covers look like, until I finished reading the book and it's there at the end of it.
Well, I'll give Dynamite an absolute A+ on this. In previews, 2 months before the book hits the shelves, Dynamite has the covers, all of them, and they're all in the book, and you can see every last one of them. Meanwhile, like 2 months in a row, IDW has put out where the cover should be. It just says the name of the book and says cover art coming soon. You can't show me the cover, then what are you doing? Dynamite knows people are buying for the covers, and so they have to show them the covers. So we've got folks who give us a list. I want this cover, this cover, this cover, this cover. And that's what we go through and do every month, is we order those covers for them.
Now, see, you did something there for a while that I really enjoyed. This has been a while ago, when I believe it was Middleton was coming out with all those different the B covers for Batgirl.
Yes.
And you knew in enough time to where you could post the picture on Facebook and say, hey, if you want this cover, I need to know now.
Yep.
And
when I had advance notice, I could do that.
Yeah, and that was great. They need to be doing stuff like that. Give you some type of social media release. That you can't tell me that with all those artists and everybody that's works for those companies, they can't whoop up together some quick PowerPoint and say, hey, slap this on your social media.
Sure.
And that way, that gives you as a retailer an opportunity to say, hey, look, these are the covers that are coming. I need to know by X date which cover you want. I think that would work out really, if they're going to continue with this 11,000 covers per issue.
Yeah, Tom, I agree with you. I never was a big fan of Green Hornet. I don't know why. He was never my jam. But I don't know if it's because they both have red hair or what. But Gail Simone is consistently a great writer for Red Sonja. She gets the character. I'm 100% with you on that. I think Gail Simone writes a really good Red Sonja. To jump back up and answer Bill's question about AWA and their release style. Yeah, they do a 4-issue limited series, a 5 issues, 6 issues, whatever it is. Do I think that risks losing readers? No, not really, and I'll tell you why. Because they wrap up the story.
Mm-hmm.
They don't leave you hanging. There might be a part 2, but part 1 is always a satisfying conclusion to the story. If they do come out with a part 2, you're just like, oh, sweet, there's more. I don't find it distracting. I don't find it challenging. And because it's also not an ongoing series, they don't have any of those. So you're not waiting for the next episode of the Fantastic Four to pop up, right? You're not waiting for the next issue of Spider-Man to hit the shelf. You get your 4 issues, whatever, and then you say, I wonder what they're putting out next.
Yep.
And I'm going to check that out. And we don't have a ton. And I honestly, I don't understand why, because I think we should. We don't have a ton, but we do have a solid handful of folks who are just putting me down for all AWA books. Because I'm going to like more of them than I don't like. Just based on their track record and the quality of what they're putting out.
Yeah, and then AWA is also one of those where, like Bill says in his next comment, he's awaiting the next Red Zone series. If they do it like they did American Ronin, we might not get another one.
Yep, we might not.
And American Ronin, for as much as it leaves you hanging in the last issue, at the end of the day, it was still the perfect ending.
Yeah, it was a perfect ending, but it definitely left you wanting more.
Yeah, American Ronin, I mean, would fit. Oh my God, American Ronin and Red Zone would fit in so well together. The thing about AWA is some of their comics do get dark and gritty and a little edgy.
Yeah, and that's not for everybody, and I absolutely recognize that.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody, but if you're wanting to get away from, let's take Knighted, for example. Knighted it technically is a superhero book.
It's a Batman story.
But at the same time, he's really and truly not a hero. He's a jackass.
Yeah, he's horrible.
Yeah, he's not a good person. Knighted is a fun read to get away, a fun superhero read to get away from superheroes.
Yeah, because it breaks the trope, right?
Yeah.
It breaks the superhero trope. When the superhero is in fact not even a remotely good person. Yeah, it breaks the trope, but it is fun. And it was a comedic book. It wasn't just a deadly serious book, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was kind of like, what if they took Batman and the Santa Claus and mixed those together? Is kind of what that premise was, right?
Yeah.
Oops. The last superhero died, and you were in close proximity. So, oops! Now you're the new one.
Yeah, I never made that connection before, and I'm sitting here, and for those of you that have not read it, you really need to pick up the trade, because the way he dies, it's so absurdly funny, and at the same time, you're like, this dude's a jerk. I mean, this superhero deserved to die. I mean, he really did.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to tell y'all how he died. You got to go read the book.
But I'm with you, Bill. I'm hoping that there is another Red Zone series, because I loved Red Zone.
Yep.
Red Zone was great. the perfect.
Red
I know
Zone.
we've said it on here before, but it's like the perfect combination of Red, the retired, extremely dangerous, the comic and the movie, which had Bruce Willis, John Malkovich, Morgan Freeman, everybody in it, and then it's a combination of that with John Wick, and it's absolutely and utterly fantastic in every way. I'm sold out of the trade. I don't know if I told you that. I've got to get copies of the Red Zone trade back in.
That's a good trade to be sold out of.
Well, not really, because I keep trying to. Oh, I know the book you need to read, and I tell them it's Red meets John Wick, and people are like, "Oh, I got to read that," and then I walk them back to the shelf, and it's gone. I'm like, "Dadgummit, I got to get more."
But it's good because it's telling us that people are listening to us. If you want to, right now I'm going to tell y'all, and I think there still might be 2 on the shelf. I think I might have saw them last week or a couple weeks ago. If you want to kind of explore AWA, so to speak, a little bit and kind of break away and see some of the darker that they do, pick up Devil's Highway. Devil's Highway, it's 2 volumes. They did 2 series on it. Absolutely amazing, but think Brad Pitt's Seven. Seven with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. It's dark and gritty like that.
It didn't strike me as, I don't know, maybe it's just the age I was when I saw Seven. It didn't strike me as quite as awful as that. but it's pretty dark and gritty for sure.
I say it's not that bad, but it's more. Devil's Highway is extremely dark.
Yeah.
Devil's Highway, when you read it, could have been a lot darker.
Yes.
To me, it was one of those that, yes, you do get a couple of graphic scenes in there, but it was one of those that less is more, and what they did not show you allowed your imagination to run wild, and I think that's why it worked so well for me.
Yeah. But we were far askew from the topic of Dynamite. What was your grade for Dynamite?
I would have to give Dynamite about a C.
Fair.
I think they're about a C, just simply because of the way they do all the different covers and everything.
Yeah, I will say, I'm not, as a retailer, I'm not a giant fan of having to scroll through as I'm placing the order, like cover, because on weekly FOCs, you'll see that because they only have 10 listings per page, right, on the website, as we go through to place our final order cutoff, and you get back to the Dynamite section, and it's literally just scroll, because I have to scroll through pages of Dynamite for like 4 titles.
Yeah.
And that is frustrating. But what's the next publisher you want to talk about? How about IDW?
Yeah, I think IDW is a good one to go with, simply because, yes, they did lose Transformers. They lost G.I. Joe, but they still seem to be doing fairly well with some of their other properties. I thought IDW, and this is going to end up being a niche comic, my personal opinion. If you're not reading it, I feel like you need to pick it up. One that they're doing very, very, very well, in my opinion, is The Rocketeer.
Oh, heck yes.
I
think The Rocketeer is great. That's not where I thought you were going, but yes, Rocketeer is great.
Based on what they've done with The Rocketeer alone, I'm willing to stick with them to, while they ride this out, because losing G.I. Joe and Transformers, they took a big hit on that. They really did.
Yes, they absolutely did. And then they started trying to come back with creator-owned projects, and some of those were okay. None of them have been humongous hits. They really are a company built around licensed properties. So you've got G.I. Joe, you've got Transformers, you have My Little Pony, you have Star Trek. You have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Uh, you had a whole bunch of things that they just, that's what they were based on. And when you start losing those licenses for those properties, then you don't know what to do. On the business side of things, they've had some issues, and that's been going on for a little while. But I'll give them props, and they get a little bit of extra love from me because when they did get the GI Joe license, they didn't just hand it off to some schmo and say, "Hey, we've got the license for GI Joe." They called Larry Hama and said, "Hey, buddy, you want to keep writing the story that you quit writing back in 1995?" And they, I don't know how hard they had to twist his arm to do it, but they convinced him to do it. And so he wrote another 150 issues of a book that I love. And so I got to give them mad props for doing that. And another book, I will say, they've got their feet under them a little bit with this. They did Breath of Shadows, weird book, but it was good. That was a Birch book, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the book they've got coming out right now that really caught me by surprise a little bit because I read the solicits and I looked at all the stuff and I thought, well, that looks dumb. But The Hunger and the Dusk.
The reason why I went with Rocketeer over Hunger and Dusk is because Rocketeer is something that people are going to be a little more familiar with.
Sure.
So that's why, and Hunger and Dusk was great. I mean, don't get me wrong. Hunger, if you have not read it, please pick it up. It was a fantastic read. It really was.
I know that the Star Trek fans tend to like to consume all things Star Trek. But I do feel like they're trying to wring every last nickel they can out of that Star Trek license. They've got regular original series books. They've got Next Generation books. They've got Deep Space Nine books. They have Strange New World books, Defiant books. They have everything except Enterprise and Voyager books. And they're starting one now called Picard's Academy, which follows a young Captain Picard when he was at Starfleet Academy. And I don't know if that's awesome or terrible.
So, Nick, I looked it up over here, and I'm seeing from April.
Yeah, they definitely did that a few months ago. Yeah, but I will say I think they hit a bump. They failed a few tests because they were missing class or what have you. They lost some star players from their team, but I think they might be on their road to recovery. We'll have to see. Only time will tell. So, what are you giving? What grade are you giving to IDW?
Based on Rocketeer and Hunger and Dusk alone, I'm willing to give them a C+ right now.
Okay.
The reason why it's, I guess for some people that's going to be low. For others, they might think that it's high. I wanted to find the middle ground for them because with the properties that they've lost, they're going to have to find themselves again. And I think
100% agree, and that's why I gave them a C-. I think they've hit a bad spot. They were in a terrible position, but they're on their way back up. And I think, if we get to the end of term report card, I think they'll have shown some improvement.
Yeah, I think they will too. And I mean, they're definitely well on their way with Hunger and Dusk. And the overall production value of Rocketeer has just been great.
As a parent, I don't know if you've ever thought about things this way. You probably have. But my grade for them is a motivational grade. You can do better, and I want to see you do it. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps, IDW. The book hasn't come out yet, Mike. I don't know if Picard is sporting hair on that almond-shaped head or not. I don't know. If he's not, then you could recognize him. But also, how did he lose his hair quite in that pattern at that young age? I don't know. So we're not too far off on IDW. That's good. What do you think about Boom Studios?
I kind of fell off with Boom Studios. In fact, I can't even really and truly. I know. I need to look them. Oh crap! Wrong button. I need to look them up to see what the last thing I read by Boom Studios was. And I think the reason why I fell off on them, it was a good book, but it kind of seemed like it was starting to drag. And that was, oh, come on, where you at?
You talking about Something's Killing the Children?
No, it was
Or
the
House of Slaughter?
what? No, I never could get into those books. I really couldn't get into them. I know a lot of people loved them, but I just could not get into it. One thing that I really and truly I'm mad at myself on for missing the boat on is Dune House Harkonnen. Because I am a Dune fan. I do like it. I wished I had gotten in on those. And I just totally missed the boat. Berserker started out really good and then just kind of started dragging. And then what
Felt
was
kind of
that
like
one?
Last Ronin, didn't it?
Yeah.
The TMNT Last Ronin, like it starts off like, oh wow, and then it's like, are they still coming out with this? What are they doing?
And then what was that one series? The one I'm thinking of, it had they were literally they come out of the mountain, they killed an entire town, they all had powers. Uh
Oh,
okay,
that's
here's one that if I had some advice for Boom Studios, I want to say this might have been 4 issues, and I had forgotten complete. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot all about it until I saw it on their website. You need to revisit it because it was so good. That was Sisters of Sorrow.
oh
That
yeah.
that was like some type of cross between Goodfellas and Boondock Saints, and it was so good. That's one that they definitely need to dust off and bring back out. I thought that was great.
Now they've got Power Rangers, and again, not my jam, but there's a lot of people love Power Rangers, and we've got a fairly healthy subscriber base for Power Rangers. But a lot of books that we had readers for and that people loved have all ended over there. And one of my all-time favorites was Once in Future. I loved Once in Future.
And seeing that's another one that I totally missed the boat on.
Dude, you should read the trades on Once in Future. That is a killer book. Absolutely killer story. Kieran Gillen knocks that one out of the park. But they do Something's Killing the Children, House of Slaughter. They do Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Berserker. They did Lumberjanes, which was a great book. They do the Firefly books. And they've got a handful of smaller titles like Atlas Ever After that we got a couple of readers on, but not really very many. I think Boom kind of had a boom, right? They struck gold, and they had some phenomenal books. And they kind of everything they did, they were just kind of like printing money for that little while, and then those books came to a natural conclusion.
Yep.
And they haven't figured out a way to replace that with something that's getting people excited. So I think books like Power Rangers are really keeping them afloat.
Okay, I did not know this. I just saw this. The Walt Disney Company actually inherited Fox's stake in Boom Studios.
And yet they went to Dynamite to publish their Darkwing Duck, Gargoyles, and Disney villains characters. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. And honestly, I don't know how to grade Boom Studios because I want to read the Dune stuff that they do, but it's I've kind of missed the boat on it. I never read Once in Future. I loved Sisters of Sorrow, And that is really making me mad that I cannot think of that one title that they did. Boom Studios
Was it Secret 7?
No, it was. Oh, it's been within the past couple of years. I don't even know if the title's still around. There was 5 of them, and basically their powers represented the 5 senses. Looked really good.
No. I do like this explanation for what happened to Picard's hair, though. Why he lost his hair at a young age. That's hysterical.
Yes, Bill's right. Basilisk. That was it.
Oh, Basilisk was the Cullen Bunn book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
that was really good.
Yeah, it was. To me, it was really good, but it kind of started dragging a little bit. It was almost like, okay, hurry up! You need to hurry up and fight. I'm tired of the you're in this town, she's in that town. To me, and right after the part where her and the woman that she's kind of somewhat helping, if I remember correctly,
Yep.
when they had the fight in the woods, it kind of started dragging after that.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And it was a personal thing. It just kind of fell off for me.
The pacing fell off. Yeah, I'm with
Yeah.
you.
So I think that I would have to give Boom a C plus. Simply because what I have read, I've liked. The problem is it goes so far, and then, like you said, the pacing just falls off for me.
Yeah. The Firefly books, they've got a fairly consistent readership. It's small but consistent. Same thing with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But again, those are reliant on licensed properties, and that's what's getting them through right now. I gave Boom. Had we done this like a year or 2 years ago, I would have given Boom a very different grade. But I gave Boom Studios a C minus also.
Okay. Next one. Dark Horse.
Yep. What you think?
So I absolutely loved what Dark Horse did by publishing Scott Snyder's Clear.
Heck yes.
My honest opinion, I think Clear should be in running for miniseries of the year.
Agreed. Does that mean that we have to do like an awards show at the end of the year?
Yeah, but I mean, who are we going to give it to?
Well, we can invite them.
Well, you know what? That's something that we could do is at the end of the year, literally sit down and we do like you give your top 10 of the year, I give my top 10 of the year, and why we chose those 10. And we could literally do, like Two Brothers used to do, except we just do ours once a year. You know how they used to have their top 10? Yeah, we need to do that toward the end of the year. But I don't know what's fixing to happen with Dark Horse since are they getting Star Wars back? Is it only going to be certain properties that are going back?
They only have certain properties at the moment, and it's likely to stay that way. But yes, they have all the Star Wars properties aimed at kids.
Okay, see, and I really didn't get into the Star Wars properties aimed at kids. I did try to read that Vader's Castle.
Yeah.
But
I will say, really you started with Clear, and I think that was a great place to start because that was kind of a relaunch point for them. Like they've been chugging along with Hellboy, for example, and BPRD. Those are just continuing to move along. The little Hellboy universe is its own self-perpetuating, self-licking ice cream cone. But a couple of things have happened recently. One of those being that Stan Sakai is bringing Usagi Yojimbo from IDW back to Dark Horse.
Yep.
So Usagi Yojimbo's coming back. They're putting out Barnstormers. right? So they've got some stuff from Scott Snyder here. They started with Clear, and now they've got Barnstormers. Uh, they're putting out some good stuff that's a little bit outside their traditional wheelhouse, and I dig it. Uh, I've always liked Dark Horse as a company because when we were kids, those are the guys who brought us Alien and Predator,
Yep.
right? And then they brought us some awesome Star Wars stuff for the longest time. They brought us the Indiana Jones books, which were so freaking good. Um, no, Dark Horse, they were one of the first like independent publishers that was really able to find a niche and dig in their heels and stay there. And they have survived for a really long time. And things were looking dicey for them in the past couple of years. When they lost Star Wars, that was a huge, huge hit for them because they had just really created a whole new universe out of Star Wars, and we're starting to see bits and pieces that pop up in the shows and things. But they had created that, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and honestly, some of the first Star Wars comics that I actually read were Dark Horse comics.
Oh man, Dark Empire.
Um,
Oh yeah, the Nick is right. The manga sales, Dark Horse is one of the leading sellers of manga in the United States.
Yep.
Yeah, he's absolutely right about that.
X-Wing Rogue Squadron. They were the other ones to put something like that out.
Yep.
Honestly, I wish Marvel would drop half of their Star Wars titles and give us X-Wing Rogue Squadron.
Oh, that'd be great. Speaking of which, though, I am looking forward to Dark Droids. I haven't got to read that first issue yet, but that looks good.
My personal opinion, Dark Droids actually started in the last issue of Darth Vader.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even though I don't think that was part of the Dark Droids storyline, but to me, that would just make the logical place for it to start.
It seemed pretty natural.
My thing, and well, let's get to Marvel here in a second.
Well, yeah, let's finish. Let's give a grade to Dark Horse. Where do you think Dark Horse is?
With what Dark Horse is trying to do, and the fact that they're trying to turn some things around, I want to give them a B minus. Simply because to me, they're in the running for comic of the year with Clear or miniseries of the year, however we want to do it. They're trying to bring some more properties back over. And I really wasn't that big on it, but Star Wars High Republic Adventures or something like that.
Yeah. That's the High Republic stories aimed at kids. Yeah.
Yeah, they're making an effort, and I'm willing to give them a B for the effort.
And the fact that they're bringing back Usagi Yojimbo, and they're not just doing, Stan Sakai is kind of embracing Usagi Yojimbo as a universe, because they've had that all along, right? You've got old stuff, you've got future stuff with Usagi in space, you've got modern day stuff. He's got the whole gamut, so I think he's going to expand that into a universe that's telling Usagi Yojimbo stories in each of those kind of time periods. And Usagi Yojimbo is just one of those great classic books that's been around forever. And Dark Horse was its original home, I think, or pretty close to original. It was very early age. So I'm really glad to see Stan Sakai coming home. I also gave them a B minus. And again, it was kind of motivational. I want them to get that grade up.
Yep.
I wasn't just writing them off and saying, "Nice try, kid. Get out of here." I think they're going to do good things. So,
yeah, they're one of those. They've been around for so long, and whether people realize it or not, they were extremely important to the Star Wars mythos.
Yep.
I mean, you kind of got to pull for that company. You know, it's kind of one of those. Hey, you can do this.
Yep.
And especially, like I said, I mean, I will beat that dead horse across the finish line. Clear is one of the best damn things they have put out in a long time.
Well, anybody put out. That was a great book.
Yeah, that was absolutely mind-blowing how good that book is.
You want to know one of my favorite things about that book?
What's that?
one of my favorite things about that book has nothing to do with the book itself. It has to do with your reaction when you picked it up and it was in your box and you said, "What in the heck is this? And why did he put this in my box?"
I was looking at it going, what is this cartoonish looking face paint thing on the, what's this head? Is that a motor? I was so confused by the cover.
Well, yeah, because the way that the handprints on the face look like giant eyeballs with great big eyelashes, it was very strange. I give you that. But yeah,
What?
your reaction of what in the heck is this? What is this man lost his mind putting this in my box?
What in the Hello Kitty is Josh trying to sell me?
Right. He must have accidentally ordered copies of this.
It ended up being, literally, all joking aside, one of the best stories that I've read in a long time. It's just that good.
Your image is locked up, by the way. I can still hear you, but your image, there you go. Now that you've moved it. But now
okay, that was
you
kind
just
of
locked
weird.
up again.
Yeah, I'm getting that funky connection.
That thing where it's telling you that your Wi-Fi is bad, even though you're not on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, even though I'm not on Wi-Fi. Which I think that
could be a timed thing because it runs in. You run into that after a couple hours.
Yeah, which does. I think that kind of brings us to the big two because we might end up talking about them for a few minutes.
We still got one more we got to hit before we get to them, and it's a big one.
Oh, who's that?
Image, son.
Hey, here's my thing on Image, though. They're kind of the parent company, and we could probably sit here and pick out 5 things that we don't like they're doing and 5 things that we do like that they're doing.
Easily. Absolutely easily. But they're still the company putting it out, and they're still the publisher, so we got to give them a grade.
Okay, so I'm literally going to...
No incomplete. That's cheating. You can't give it incomplete.
I'm not going to give it incomplete. I'm going to base my grade on...
No One.
Hang on. No One, Radiant Black, Dead Romans, Gunslinger Spawn.
G.I. Joe, Transformers, Void Rivals.
Hang on a second. I cannot as much as I want to, I cannot legitimately throw G.I. Joe and Transformers into it just yet because they haven't come out. I can only base this off of what I've read.
You can give them G.I. Joe because you know that it picks up at issue 301.
I can do that, but there's still the unknown of what this Duke 1 and Cobra Commander 1 is going to be.
Yeah, but it won't touch the regular G.I. Joe book. It's all good.
Yeah, as far as publishing, the way that they're coming out with this stuff, the quality of work that they're putting out, everything, I'm going to give them an A. A flat A with the possibility of an A+ depending on what happens at the end of this year. Because the end of the end of this year, the end of 2023 is going to tell us a lot about the Void Rivals universe.
Yeah, I agree. There was a retailer roundtable discussion today. Discussion is not really accurate. It was more of a presentation, but retailers could ask questions.
They make a salve for that.
About Transformers. And there's some surprise stuff with Transformers too. Kind of like there was some surprise stuff they announced with Void Rivals and that kind of thing. I am not allowed to discuss it. And I want to keep the secret anyway, because the secret on Void Rivals was so much better for not knowing, right?
Yep.
For people who picked up the book and they're like, holy smokes. Let me tell you, I have not been excited about a Transformers book because I'm not really a Transformers guy. I have not been excited about a Transformers book since I can remember. I got a little bit excited about it when Dreamwave picked up the license. You remember them back in the early 2000s?
Oh, God. I actually forgot all about them.
Yeah, when they picked up the license, I enjoyed what they were doing. Pat Lee on art was spectacular. Uh, but I'm excited about Transformers now, and just the fact that I'm excited about it is enough to give me a solid A for them. In addition to all the titles I like that they're putting out, the ones that I'm really digging, I give them a solid A.
Yeah, I think what's going to help as far as that is concerned is Kirkman is a true fan of Transformers and G.I. Joe.
Yep.
So it's not like it's almost like we can say, all right, our baby's in good hands, even though yes, I know that sounds weird, but at the end of the day, it's Larry Hama did this. Cartoons, the toys, everything that we grew up with, that all belongs to somebody else, but it's ours. Without us, they wouldn't be where they're at. And without people like us, they wouldn't be where they're at. So that's why I call it our baby. So
One thing I have to ask you, since you said that, one of the reasons, and I think this is part of his pitch to Hasbro for these properties, was that he really, honest to goodness, wants creators or characters that he has created to have action figures and ships. When the Hasbro Pulse sends out that email about releasing this new wave of figures for a thing called Void Rivals, you gonna get them?
I might get the two main characters because I love the way they look. And I kind of was being a smart aleck when I did this, and when I actually watched it back several times, for anybody that watched the Void Rivals 2 short, I used a Daft Punk song for the music.
Yep.
And it fit perfectly.
To a T.
And I think that I'm going to have to get at least the two main characters, those figures.
I'm with you on that. So we both give Image a solid A. I think that's cool. So we want to flip a coin. You want to talk about DC first or Marvel?
Let's jump on Marvel first, because at least when we go with DC, we might stand a better chance of ending the show on a positive note. Oh, Marvel, where do we start?
I would like to start by saying I have always, my whole life, been a Marvel guy. I was never the Marvel zombie who just bought everything that had the Marvel logo on it. I was never that guy. I didn't have the money to be that guy. But Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Defenders, Doctor Strange, all this stuff, man, I was all over this stuff. I loved it. That's what I was reading. Hulk, back to Peter David days. Hulk, the Avengers. That was my jam. Guys, I loved it. So it hurts me when I tell you, if you stack up all the Marvel books next to each other, the ones that are not good far outweigh the ones that are good. And that hurts me to say.
My issue with Marvel is it's like we're trying to pump out too many books without fixing the actual property itself first. X-Men should be one of their top selling books. It should be mind-blowingly good based on the characters alone.
Yep.
I don't think you really and truly need any more than 3 X-Men books. You need X-Men, X-Factor, and X-Force. That's it. You need those 3 books. We don't need... Well, I mean, how many titles are there now? 7?
At least.
Cut down 4 of those titles, condense them, and fix them. Give us 3 really good titles. That
focus
whole,
on the characters.
yeah, that whole thing with Cable being 15 years old, that was just weird. That was weird to me. I mean, I need Cable to be a grown, grumpy old man. In fact, that Cable series that they did just before um they put out Powers of X and House of X.
Yeah,
I can't remember how many issues that Cable series went. It went for a couple of years, didn't it?
yeah, it did.
That was actually a really good series. And then you ended it. You put out a phenomenal miniseries, two of them, and then you trashed it with 1,100 titles.
Right out of
Just
the
trying
gate,
to,
they opened with what, 5 titles to start with, and then
yeah,
they rapidly expanded past that. Um, I tell you, they told phenomenal stories back when you had Uncanny X-Men and X-Men, and then you added X-Force, and you had X-Factor there for a bit, and
Excalibur for a little while.
well, yeah, I just never even counted that because that was such a totally different book. It was more like a comedy book. It was strange. But New Mutants you had there for a while, which became X Force, right? So,
Yeah.
and you had different classes of stories happen in each of those, and that didn't feel like too many. That felt about right. But part of that was because they all had their own thing going on in them,
Mm-hmm.
right? They would occasionally overlap, but they were just telling their own stories. They were 5 distinct books telling their own stories. Now you don't know, like, you're reading a book and you're like, well, what happened? Because the next issue just picks up in a random spot. And you're like, well, what happened to the end of the last story? Oh, you had to read a different book for that.
Yep.
Like, what is this mess? Get your stories in order, people. Tell stories. They don't have to be linear stories, but they do need to be self contained. They need to be followable. They need to be something that people care about, people are passionate about, characters that they're interested in. Putting out like 12 different X related limited series in 1 month, you've got to be kidding me. Who approved that? Why?
Um,
Absolutely terrible idea.
if you want to do something different, go back to the 80s, take the original X Factor and put them back in space. That worked so good. And I don't even know why. I mean, when you had Scott, Jean, Beast, Iceman, and Angel in space, that was fun. It was a good read.
Yep.
I understand why they brought them home, put all the team back together and everything, but and they did some really good stuff then. But now with the Hellfire Gala, however you want to say it, and everything, they need to calm down on X-Men. They really do.
Hey, something interesting? Richard Early that we had on a couple weeks ago, the store up in Fargo, North Dakota.
Yeah.
He messaged me the other day and asked me if I had read the Hellfire Gala this year, and I said no. I'm not. It doesn't interest me. And he said you need to read it. And I said why? And he goes, because I don't know how they tell any more X-Men stories after this.
Really?
Yeah. So now I'm curious as all get out. I want to see what happens.
Hmm.
Uh, so I'm gonna, when I get to the store, I'm gonna pick that up and give that a read. Uh, we've talked about Spider-Man ad nauseum. I absolutely understand that, but what they've done to Spider-Man is terrible.
Yep.
Now,
And I think Bill's spot on. They're focused more on movies now.
uh, I understand why we would say that. I just don't know that I agree with it. And I look at things like Moon Knight, like Scarlet Witch, like Miles Morales, Spider Man. I look at some of the upcoming books, like Avengers Incorporated, which looks flippin' awesome. They've got some stuff that looks really good, but they're all that kind of. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm gonna have to find one. Uh, but there's a core, Fantastic Four. There's a core of really good books that Marvel is putting out,
Mm-hmm.
and we've talked about this before, so I don't want to beat the dead horse, but it feels like those books are almost being put out without Marvel knowing about it. Like editorial didn't see them before they went out, and that's why they're good. They feel more like the exception than the rule because of all the big flagship titles are just languishing. They're just not where they should be. They should be rocking everybody's world. Everybody should be reading Spider-Man. Everybody should be reading X-Men, and they're just not. And that's because Marvel has given them every reason not to.
Yeah, and
And
I don't.
people have gotten tired of the abuse, and they said, "Look, I'm just done. I'm getting out of this relationship," and they've done it. Um, and I understand it. I get that completely, and I don't even disagree with it. It hurts me so bad to say that because I'm such a big fan of those characters and those elements of the Marvel universe. I just hate it. I just hate that. So my grade is reflective of their publishing practices, of their lack of focus and attention on their flagship titles, uh, and my overall disappointment. Where did you grade
So
them?
pretty much the exact same way. I want to get my overall grade right now on them is actually going to be about a C minus. And the reason why I'm going so low is based on publishing, based on what they're actually flooding the market with. I honestly think that we are in this funky little era where Marvel does not have a flagship book anymore.
No.
Marvel is, for lack of a better way to put it, they're almost a rudderless ship right now. Um, they've got to do a lot of work on some of these, like Spider-Man. I mean, they've just, like you said, we've talked about them ad nauseum. They've got to do a lot of work, but at the same time, they're gonna have to leave Daredevil, Moon Knight, Scarlet Witch. They've got to leave those titles alone. There's only one book that they have right now that could truly become the flagship of Marvel again, and that's Fantastic Four.
100% agree.
Um, they need to let Ryan North take over, let him start kind of guiding some of these stories, tell editorial to sit down and shut up. Let Ryan North, in my opinion, is the man that could fix Spider-Man, period.
Oh, I could not agree more. He should absolutely be writing Spider-Man. He's got the right vibe for it.
I mean, it's almost like on some level, the editorial and the publishers at Marvel were sitting around a table, and McKay, North, and Zdarsky said, "Hey, we've got these really good ideas," and they were like, "Okay, fine, just go ahead, go take care of it, do what you got to do. We got to figure out how we're going to screw over Peter Parker next." And that's kind of the way that it comes across. And those guys, for whatever reason, they took those books and they ran with them. And I mean, they are phenomenal, but overall, I got to give them a C minus because of everything else that they're doing. Even with Star Wars, you know,
Yep.
we've got to have some type of crisis, another massive crossover, even though we just got finished with Bounty Hunter Wars. Then Crimson Reign, Crimson Dawn, whatever that one was. I didn't even read half of them. I'm reading Darth Vader and the main title, and that's it.
Well, I tell you, two things made me give them the grade that I did. In addition to all the other stuff we talked about, there were two things that weighed on me and said, as a publisher, what are you doing? And one of those was advertising in 3 consecutive months for a 4-issue limited series, issue number 1, issue number 2, issue number 3 of a series called We can't tell you the title. Classified. We can't show you a cover image. It's classified. We can't tell you who's writing it or drawing it. That's classified. But trust us and order the book.
That was dumb.
No. That's it. That's like trying to sell snake oil if I ever heard it.
Yep.
No, sir. I deserve to know what I'm buying. Unless you are advertising and selling a mystery box, in which case the allure is it's a mystery box and it might have a special prize in it, then no, sir. I'm not in the mind reading game. I'm not gambling. I'm not a gambler. I'm a retailer. I'm trying to sell a product and I can't sell it. I can't order it. It's impossible to order that correctly. It's either going to be right or it's going to be wrong. If it becomes the most popular thing in the world and I don't have it, I'm going to be mad about it. If I order a ton of it and it's terrible, I'm going to be mad about it because I can't sell it. Either way, I'm losing money because you guys are getting cute and trying to tell me, oh, it's all a big secret. You should order a bunch. Let me tell you, when they killed Superman, it was called The Death of Superman, and everybody on the planet knew what was going to happen in that book. That didn't spoil the ending. I hate to break it to you guys. It didn't spoil the ending. Everybody came out for it because they knew what it was. This hiding information and thinking that makes a book appealing, I don't know what your numbers are telling you, but I'm not playing that game at my shop. I think that's terrible. So that right there, and then the flooding the market, and the title that really sticks with me, and it's probably going to end up being good, and I'm going to regret this, that they just advertised is Uncanny Spider-Man, where Nightcrawler is Spider-Man.
See, to me, that just screams gimmick, and I could care less.
Because I look at it and go, that's just one more thing that you just piled on. After a month where you release like 12 X-related miniseries, the next month you do that. I'm like, nope. Like I said, it might actually be good, but I'm super frustrated about it. And so for those two reasons, in addition to all the other things, I gave Marvel a D+.
Okay.
I gave them a
We're
lower
still
score than
close
you.
together.
And I don't know if that's punitive or motivational, or it's both. If I'm honest, in my heart, it's both. I'm frustrated, and I want them to be so much better because they can and should be so much better. They were the absolute pinnacle of comic book storytelling until they broke it. They tried to fix what wasn't broke, and they broke it.
I mean, honestly, to me, it might have been a little more interesting if they somehow de-aged Nightcrawler and turned it into Uncanny Spider-Boy. At least then we could have killed two birds with one stone.
Let's just talk about Spider-Boy for a minute. No. Now he's getting his own limited series? No.
Nick told me he wanted all the variant covers also.
Oh, I'll make sure he gets those. Yeah, I want Marvel to be so good, and I love them to death, which is why I have a higher expectation for them, and it bothers me so tremendously. They should be getting an A+, period, the end, and the fact that they are so far removed from that is like physically painful to me.
Yep.
Moving on quickly, DC. Where do we begin?
Okay, so I love what DC's doing with Dawn of DC.
I hate that they took a really long commercial break for absolutely no reason in the middle of it.
Exactly. This whole Night Terrors thing, like I said earlier, there's been aspects of it that I've liked. There's been aspects of it that I could have cared less for. They should have held off on this until probably around Halloween.
Yep.
Let it have been the entire month of October, and just let that be that. Just give us one big massive Halloween special. I don't like that they've done it now.
I wish they had done it as the annuals.
Yeah, that would
remember back in the 90s when they did themed annuals, like the year they had all Elseworld stories were the annuals.
Yeah,
they
wasn't did Bloodlines like nothing but annuals?
Bloodlines was nothing but annuals. Yes, yep. Absolutely. had they done this as annuals like they did back in the day, I probably would have got all of them.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a bonus. That wouldn't have been taking away 2 months worth of Chip Zdarsky Batman.
Yep.
That wouldn't have been cutting a 6-issue limited series like Green Arrow in half and saying, nope, sorry, we're not going to publish this for 2 months because we're going to do this other nonsense. That was a poor editorial decision. That's a bad publishing decision.
Yeah, and they're delaying Tom King's Wonder Woman for this. No, that one's pretty a pretty anticipated book right now.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, people are wanting that book. Now, on the flip side, yes, that is the bad that they've done, but the good that they've done. The Green Arrow miniseries has been fantastic.
Nightwing, Titans, Batman, Detective, Wonder Woman,
action, Superman. I never thought that I would read a Superman comic book where I actually cared about Silver Banshee.
Dude, I'm signed up for the next Flash book.
I went ahead and signed up for it too because they've changed so much. I have a lot of hope for DC right now because they're going a little more character driven. It feels like
that's exactly right. It's a focus back on characters, and I don't know if that was an editorial mandate or if they just got writers who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It kind of feels, because it's so broad across so many titles, it kind of feels like that was an editorial mandate. Wherever it came from, whatever the reason, it's dead on target. And I can tell you from a personal perspective, I'm really enjoying DC books more now than I have in a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And from a retailer perspective, our sales numbers are reflective that other people are enjoying it too.
I think and I never would have imagined that I would have ever said anything remotely like this, but I think that one of the smartest things DC did was doing away with Justice League.
Yep. I 100% agree. I never would have thought of that or encouraged that, but it was the right move.
Yeah, even if we'd have had this conversation a year ago, I wouldn't have said it.
Agreed.
Is the Justice League gone forever? No, it's comic books. Nobody's ever truly gone forever unless you're Gwen Stacy.
Or Uncle Ben.
Or Uncle Ben.
And Gwen Stacy even came back.
Yeah, but she still wasn't the same.
No, that's true.
But they did the right thing by getting rid of Justice League. They've done the right thing by pushing Nightwing more to the forefront. People that have been fans of Nightwing for years have always known that Nightwing was so much better than what they were doing with him.
Yep.
Now they're doing it with him. Now they're pushing that character to the forefront, and everybody's starting to catch up to what everybody else knew in the friggin' 90s when it comes to Nightwing. There's still a couple of things that I'm not that big of a fan of when it comes to DC, but that's more personal preference.
Agreed.
I wish that they would have completely and totally ignored all the haters and the people whining and crying and the people
Black Label.
Got butt hurt over Black Label and continued down that.
Yeah, because they absolutely... Black Label, I think, was going to be something special.
Yep.
And they absolutely neutered it. It was going to be Vertigo with superheroes.
Yep.
And they absolutely neutered it by listening to people who've never read a comic in their lives who were just upset about the idea of a more adult version of these superheroes. And that was a crying shame that they did what they did and that they buckled to that pressure.
And if they were that upset over Batman the Damn #1, I could have shown them a ton of erotic comics back in the 90s that would have had them melt down.
Oh, for sure.
But you know what? You said it, even Vertigo in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Swamp Thing in the 90s, I mean, that one was even, that one was kind of out there too.
I couldn't agree more about that, Bill.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And they tried to ramrod that down our throats. Now they haven't done that in a while now because I think they finally got the message. Uh, that requires a different box from the box you use for all your other comics, different bags, different boards, different displays, the whole 9 yards, and it's an absolute miserable mess. So yeah, they need to stay away from that unless it's so incredibly special that it really needs that. And I would say Wonder Woman Historia, that art was so intricate and so highly detailed that needed to be in an oversized book. But Harleen, or whatever that book, that didn't need to be. The Superman book didn't need to be. None of the rest of those books needed to be in that oversized format at all. And
the Hellblazer book too. Wasn't there a Hellblazer one?
Yeah, there was. If that was a special format reserved for special occasions, I think fans would be okay with it.
Yeah.
As a constant just being rammed down your throat, nobody wanted that. But I have to say, on the whole, I have a great deal of optimism and hope for DC. I think they have figured out what they need to do and that they are headed the right way. Uh, and if anything follows the normal pattern of things, when one company between Marvel and DC starts doing well, the other company starts to try to figure out what are they doing and how are they going to do it. So I hope that to combat DC's success and escalation in market share, that Marvel really does a good, honest to goodness examination of what DC is doing and follows suit. I think that would be a good play for them. So that said, because we are running long, and I honestly didn't think this would be a very long night for us, but here we are. What's your grade on DC?
Based on what with my grade, I'm taking Night Terrors completely and totally out of it. Based on what they've done, the direction they're heading in, and how they managed to destroy the Justice League while still somehow keeping the Trinity somewhat together.
Yep.
I'm going in the direction that they're heading in. I'm giving them an extremely optimistic B+.
For me, I can't remove the Night Terrors editorial blunder. The timing of this is ridiculous. You don't break into the middle of a brand new launch when things are going well and just say, we're going to put this on pause for a couple of months and tell totally different stories with totally different writers and artists and hope that you stick around and come back. I think that was a horrible blunder. And I hope that they don't pay for that with their numbers. I really do. I can't remove that from my evaluation. If I could, I would give them the same grade that you did, a B+ verging on an A-. As it is, I'm giving them a B- verging toward a C+, because that was just such an absolutely colossal blunder. It really was. It's like they didn't think it through at all, and they just decided to run with this bizarre idea. And it could have been good. It could have been great. Like I said, had they followed the format that they did in the 90s with the annuals, I think this would be a whole different ballgame. I think we would all be excited about it.
Yeah, and like I said, I agree with your annuals assessment, or if they would have just waited till October, flooded us with it in October.
Oh, I agree. It should definitely have been in October, period, regardless.
Yeah, let us read, let us pick and choose, read the ones that we want, and then it ends October 31st. Back to your regularly scheduled program. I would have been fine with that. But, I mean, like I said, there's been certain books that I've really liked. Wonder Woman, Night Terrors, great read. It was so good. Batman, Superman, Night Terrors missed the mark with me.
Yeah.
I like the way that it ended. I thought that was kind of cool, that little twist about it's not affecting the Atlanteans any.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I thought that was very possibly the weakest of the Night Terrors that I've actually read. And I'm not reading all of them simply because I don't care about Angel Breaker. Angel Breaker to me was an obscure character that spawned out of Deathstroke. I don't even know why Angel Breaker's still around.
Yep, I agree. It's like, where's the Clown Hunter book, right? Like, oh,
yeah, really.
Nobody cares. I will say, I might goose my my grade on DC up just a little bit, simply for the fact that in the solicits for this month, and if you haven't signed up for this yet, what's wrong with you? You need to do it immediately. Is Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. That is just exactly the kind of absolutely goofy, off the wall, campy stuff that I cannot wait to read.
You know what that deserves?
What's that? It does indeed. That's hilarious. Well, man, that was fun. I wasn't sure if that was going to be a fun topic or not, honestly, but it was good to kind of talk through all that stuff. And it shows people where our internal biases are, right? What are we into? What are we not?
Yeah.
And it's just that. It's just our opinion. If you've got a completely different opinion about somebody, about a publisher, what they're doing, how they're doing it, man, that's awesome. I'd love to argue that with you, like old school comic shop style, like not hating on each other, but just arguing what we believe about or what we think. Used to do that on Wednesday afternoons. That was my favorite thing in the world. New comics come in, you'd stand in there talking about some obscure thing that happened in an issue of Silver Surfer a long time ago, and it happened in this issue. But if he has this power that he had there, and then he lost this other power that he had here, how can he have that power when he gets to fight this guy? Yeah, stuff like that, man, I dig it. And this feels really kind of along the same lines, just with different topic. That was good stuff.
Yeah. Hey, if y'all are watching on YouTube, smash that like button for us. And if you're watching this after the fact, tomorrow when you're at work or sometime over the weekend, leave in a comment what y'all think about what we've been saying tonight. Tell us what y'all think about them.
And a couple of other things. One, it's a ways off. We know that. We understand that. But we're going to have to, I'm just going to say this now, so it's going to force us to do it, Alan. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
We are going to have a planning meeting. We're going to have to form a committee. We're going to have a planning meeting for 24 hours at the comic shop.
From the way the boys sounded last night, it's on.
Well, we're going to have to plan that sucker out. So one day in November, from the look of it, early November, we're going to do 24 hours at the comic shop. We're going to be at Haven for a solid 24 hours. Probably going to play some D&D. We're going to watch a movie. We're going to eat way too much pizza. Whatever it is we're going to do, we're going to spend 24 hours at the comic shop. You want to come by and visit? You want to hang out for any or all of that? You want to swing by and see what these lunatics look like at 4 o'clock in the morning after they've been up for 20 hours? Whatever it is you want to do, you want to bring us some Mercy donuts, whatever it is, come on out. We're going to have a good time with it.
And I promise you, if you randomly show up at 3 a.m., we will sell you a comic book.
That's right. The open sign will be on.
Not only will we be at the lights be on for 24 hours, but the cash register will be on for 24 hours also.
That's right. We will be happy to sell you a comic book. Now, our recommendations at that point might be a little delirious. We don't know.
Honestly, the best time of day might be to buy a comic book at 3 a.m. We might be willing to wheel and deal some more.
That's right. That's it. Don't tell Dustin that. That's right.
We get Josh all hyped up on pizza and Mountain Dew. Shoot, you get a good deal then.
And moon pies.
And moon pies.
Oh, Lordy. Well, we are looking forward to that. So just be aware that's going to be coming in early November. We're going to do some insane, goofy stuff. And we're going to film a lot of it here and on the Two Brothers channel. I think we might even get Justin Birch down for that. I know there was some discussion about that, some craziness. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. Anyway, you guys have an awesome night. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this after the fact while you should be at work or what have you, then congratulations to you. Good job. But we appreciate that as always. Really looking forward to it. We've got some other interviews with some creators that we're working on scheduling. During con season is kind of hard because they're always traveling. But we are working on a few, and so we're hoping to get some creator interviews back here pretty soon. So, anything you want to sign off with there, Alan, before we end things for the night?
Honestly, when you said "as always," I could have swore to God you were going to say "collect your way."
Collect your way.
Actually, collect my way.